Okay, good evening. We'll call the meeting of the Cromwell Board of Education to order at 7 o'clock. We have people still joining by phone, and if I could just ask those people that are on the line, if you could mute yourself so we don't hear your the feedback, and take yourself off mute when you need to speak, that would be great. Okay, Alessandra, could you do roll call, please?
Mrs. Cantwell? Here. Mr. Flanders?
John Flanders, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kelleher?
Celine, are you on the line?
Here. Yes, here.
Mrs. Lamberson? Here. Mr. Merculo?
Here.
Mr. Menendez?
Lou, are you on the line? He said he might be joining late, so not on yet.
Mrs. Mooney?
Lindsay, are you on the line?
Here.
Mrs. Post? Here. Mrs. Russ? Here.
Thank you. Okay, approval of agenda and additions, deletions. There are no changes, so we can proceed. Okay, celebrating our faculty staff. Dr. Macri.
Good evening, everyone. We have Miss DiFiore on the line, and we are going to celebrate Cromwell High School students and staff. Mrs. B. Sarnacki, I know you all know her very well, and it's been a pleasure getting to know her. Incredibly committed to our students around the clock. And so I'm excited to introduce her this evening, along with celebrating our students, Zach Randazzo and Stephen Trin. Miss DiFiore.
Hi, I hope everyone can hear me. I'm having a hard time hearing. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So, yes, I wanted to just congratulate Stephen Trin and Zach Randazzo. As you know, every year, traditionally, we run our holiday party for families that we have referrals from social services in the town of Cromwell, and the entire student council takes part. This year, because of COVID, we were unable to host the party, but we were still able to purchase gifts and have the students wrap those gifts and make sure they were distributed to the families, which was a really nice gesture given all the restrictions that these students had to go through. As you know, Beth Sarnacki has always run this event. It's overseen by student council. It really is an event that really includes the entire community. There's very few that you can say to the school system that really doesn't involve the entire community, and this event does. It puts smiles on kids' faces, and it's a tradition that I hope we continue forever.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I don't know if you guys have the video of there's a short, brief excerpt that we have provided you. I'm not sure if you have it.
Yes,
we do have it. Thank you. We're going to play it now.
Okay,
Great. Thank you.
that'd be great.
We are sending the love here at Fox 61, a decades-long tradition of Santa's Workshop. It lives on this year thanks to students from Cromwell Youth Services and Cromwell High School. Now, because of COVID, of course, the usual tradition, it looked a little different. This year, though, you can see they were still managed to raise enough presents to give to kids in need. I think there's going to be some very excited kiddos when they wake up on Christmas morning. This is a tradition that they've done for so many years. They want to give back to the community. This year more than ever, I think it's so important to do so, as we know so many people have been struggling. So kudos, great job, and happy holidays to those kids there in Cromwell. Fox 61, we want to help you send the love this year. Send us a video.
Thank you very much, Miss DiFiore, Miss Sarnacki, Zach, and Stephen, and to the student council. I have to say, I woke up to a ding from Newsbreak on my phone, and it said Cromwell Public Schools, and I jumped It was about 6:30 in the morning, and this was the story. This was the headline, and it melted my heart. And they always do an amazing job with everything they do. Our students are incredibly involved, and as you all know, as I said earlier, if we even started to celebrate Miss B. Sarnak, I don't even know where I would have to start, because she just does so much for our community. So thank you to our student council, to our high school for this project, and to Miss Sarnacki for heading it off.
Great, thank you.
I just, this is Beth Sarnacki, or B. Sarnacki, as the students call me. I just want to say that Stephen and Zach really took it upon themselves, since knowing that with COVID and everything, they started this whole process in September and kept at it and did not let it go without following through. I also want to commend all their committee members as well, and as well as one of the presents that they had was a bike that Zach decided he didn't know if the child had a father or mother or somebody that could put it together, and actually put the bike together so that the student or the child from Cromwell that would receive it had a bike sitting under the tree on Christmas morning, which I can't thank Zach more than, as well as Stephen. They were phenomenal. Just you've got phenomenal kids in Cromwell.
Excellent.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Alessandra, can we put a link to that video in the minutes, please? Thank you. Correspondence, Dr. Macri.
We do not have any correspondence at this time. Just quickly a synopsis. I did get a few emails. I shouldn't say a few, about 20, about the snow day situation, about whether or not I should call a snow day or not call a snow day. And that's a difficult situation, because we want students to have their snow days. We did decide with the administration the day before the snow day, or 2 days before, that we were going to give them a surprise and tell them all at the same time, and all their administrators wrote a poem they were going to read together. We wanted to try to make it like a traditional, you're in school and then it's snowing and you get to go home. So, everyone has their point of view as to how that should work and not work. However, I don't want to make those days up at the end of the year. I want our kids to be able to get out when they actually can get out and play in the sun, and actually be able to enjoy each other outside. However, a nice combination of the two was to release the kids early, so they did a little bit of schoolwork in the morning, and then they got to go outside and play. And then I sent you all the cards. We made a banner, not myself. Doug McGuff and Krista Scallo, our distance learning coaches, and they made the banner with all the pictures of the families who sent me pictures of the kids, and you saw how adorable they were. So, of course, I said I'd give a first place winner a prize, but I sent them all a little thing for a blizzard. So it was nice. So most people ended up happy, some disappointed, but I'm just trying to be responsible and help us get out as quickly as possible in a year where we don't know what can come our way.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Just to go back, I realized we forgot to have a motion to approve the agenda, so there are no changes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion by Lori, second by Jen. Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, reports, public comment. There were no submissions for public comment, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so no public comment. Report from student representatives. Do we have our CMS and CHS reps on the line? We'll go with CMS first.
To start off, we'll talk about Math Counts, and Math Counts members will be participating in its chapter competition virtually after school on February 5th.
Students will be able to socially distance themselves in the library while competing virtually as a team. Good luck to all participating.
Now we'll move on to student council. And student council members have been busy brainstorming fundraising ideas for the upcoming month.
Some of these ideas are Spirit Week, a fundraiser to support the local animal shelter, and our annual Valentine's Day flower sale.
And moving on to the Future Problem Solvers. And the Future Problem Solvers competed in their second competition of the year on December 19th and earned 5th in their Evaluators division.
The team is currently preparing for their qualifying problem for the state championship, which will be held digitally on February 4th.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? Okay. CHS, Devin Hunter.
The district raised over $5,110 for CCMC by participating in Pajama Day. Only 5 school teams in the state raised more money than us. The school's chorus made a video concert, and the school's dance team made a video routine before the winter break. The newspaper club is working on articles to be released periodically. Students are preparing to begin the second semester on January 25th. Many are excited not to take midterm exams.
Most students discuss the events at the Capitol building in at least one of their classes on Thursday or Friday. The Unity Club discussed the riots at their meeting yesterday. Seniors have been voting for yearbook superlatives. The voting closes on January 22nd. The Literary Magazine is planning several contests in preparation for their pandemic-themed magazine. And finally, Cromwell's winter athletes are excited for their season to begin on January 19th.
Great. Thank you.
Great, thank you, guys.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Thank you. Reports of liaisons from Town Council and Board of Finance. Steve, are you on to do the Board of the Town Council report?
Jeff, can you hear me? Steve Fortenbach, how are you?
Good, Steve. Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you, Steve. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Just a quick update. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee met last week. They put together a subcommittee to develop their mission statement. They're going to be seeking to fill leadership roles as part of the committee, and they're also looking to have a regular scheduled meeting date. And I'm happy to say that the student liaisons are going to be included as part of as a permanent part of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And again, thank you to Mrs. Elliott, Rachel Elliott, and the Unity Club for participating. I know there was some technical difficulties last week, but I think they're going to bring a good insight and good energy to the group. Thank you.
Great, thank you. From the Board of Finance, I know Julius could not make it. John Ireland, are you on from the Board of Finance? Or anybody else from the Board of Finance? Going once, going twice. Okay, so no Board of Finance update for this meeting. Moving on to Superintendent's updates and responses to BOE comments / action items from prior meeting. Dr. Macklin?
Okay, I will save everything for the reopening plan when we get to it, reopening schools. But I will just cover a few things. As you know, we're in budget season. So that's been exciting, along with COVID and everything else. We are due to present on Tuesday, January 26th. So Ms. Burke, myself, all the administrators, we've been working on the budget since October. And over the last 2 weeks, we've really been crunching numbers. So we will continue to do that. And we will bring a number forward with a presentation to you on January 26th as of now. I also want to quickly speak about the vaccine, and this is an update just from yesterday and a little bit more today. Our plans were working with Mr. Neshi. He thought he was going to be able to secure the vaccine so that we can distribute during phase 1B, which begins next week, to all of our staff members because school employees are on that phase 1B. Thank goodness the state reassessed people of age 75 plus and put them on with phase 1B, which is a good thing. However, what they've also decided is that they're not going to distribute to small areas of so for example, they may not, they're not going to send, distribute to Cromwell, for example, as much as we thought we would be able to get. So what we're working on right now with Mr. Neshi is determining if Cromwell will be able to get the vaccine. Will we be able to send our staff in waves, which we're ready to do? We're already registered in VAMS, which is where you have to be registered to get the initial call. And by tomorrow, I asked Mr. Neshi to talk. We're going to speak again at 10 o'clock. And if we don't think that we can have our staff vaccinated on the premises or at town hall because they're slowing down bringing us the vaccine, they want to bring it to hospitals so that it's more available to others, then I would, by the 18th or as soon as possible, staff will get the opportunity to then go and get their vaccine wherever they can get an appointment. We didn't want to do it this way because we wanted to do it in waves. We thought it would just be better. We were very excited that we were going to be able to have this opportunity, but as of now, Mr. Neshi is really concerned about that availability. They are going to finish with phase 1, so our school nurses and our CNAs did get the vaccine, and they will have follow through with their second shot, but it may look a little different for phase 1B, which will start on January 18th, and they'll have that information as of then. So I just, at this point, there were some updates that were requested from, I wanted Tommy Litwinzik, Mr. Litwinzik, to give you an update about a little bit about what you're going to see in his budget and things that we have been putting off for a very long time so that you're not shocked 100%. Our buildings are not in order in the way they should be, and we keep pushing the envelope and we keep putting it on to next year, and Tom said we have to stop doing this. So Mr. Litwinzik would like to speak about that, and our Chromebooks, 265 Chromebooks arrived, so he's going to give you a quick update on that, and then I'll move on to Kelly and the tennis courts.
Good evening. Yeah, 235 Chromebooks. It's all right.
I was wishful
give or take
thinking.
a few. Hopefully more will show up. Arrived the other day, and we're working on a distribution plan. It's going to start tomorrow. And as far as my budget, how it's going, it's a little frightening in certain areas because, in this role I've taken on the last about 2.5 years ago, discovering some of the, I won't say deficiencies, but maybe lack of maintenance on some of the stuff that has been going on for some time. And with COVID making it more apparent what has been done as far as HVAC and stuff like that, things that have needed some repair, and we've taken care of a lot of it, but we need a better maintenance and upkeep program. And I've worked on that with Dr. Macri, and we've brought in some outside contractors to say, because we don't have an on-staff HVAC position anymore. That was eliminated, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years ago. And we need somebody to really oversee this, who has the expertise on how to make the adjustments, how to make sure that we're doing the right maintenance, and keep up our facilities in the way we need to keep up, especially in this new era of being locked down and keeping the air fresh and exchanging it properly and filtering it properly.
So I just wanted, if you have any questions for Mr. Litwinzik, please ask. I just wanted you to know that when we are talking about budgets, you will see a rather large increase, but it's really not a large increase compared to what we have to get done, and things that just can't wait any longer. So I wanted him to give you a little bit of the heads up and allow you the opportunity to ask any questions. But our ventilation is great. We are MERV 11, which is equivalent to an outpatient center. So Tommy, am I right? I want to
Yeah,
make sure I'm using the correct numbers. Okay.
I mean, to go to MERV 13 would be not required here because we don't have the rest of the facility that would match that kind of filtering rate. So we decided on MERV 11, which is a couple of steps above what we were initially using over the years, which was pretty good. It's just that now, we've upped it to make it as best as possible for the type of building we have, because there's other infiltration, so you can't really go make one spot higher. Put Pirelli's on my VW that is barely running, so I don't want to overdo it in one area and then just throw money away. We want to do it appropriately for what we have as far as functionality.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Litwinzik, and we look forward to presenting.
With entertainment coming down to tell him anything.
Okay. The next person that I would just like to share a quick update with you is Miss Kelly Maher, our athletic director, regarding sports, tennis courts, and the Pixelate cameras. Miss Maher, can you hear me? And I'm sure Miss DeFiore, if you'd like to join in too.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. The first update is on the Pixelate cameras. These are a promotion that's being offered currently because of the pandemic, where schools are allowed to get 2 free cameras, one for the gym and one for their football field. And what this does is this allows live streaming of events. So we are in the final process. We are just waiting on some answers from the town for the football field, and we will be moving forward with those to get those installed this year. The next update is with winter sports. We just received the update yesterday from DPH that they are allowing winter sports to start on the 19th. There are some new guidelines in place. Wrestling will not be happening. Competitive cheer will not be happening. And there's some new strategies with the other sports. And we will have a final update this Thursday on what will be moving forward. There is a new protocol that is required by CIAC, which is for parents. They have to sign off on notice of risk, informed consent regarding interscholastic sports. What it is, it's information regarding COVID-19 and just stating that when the kids are playing, that they are at risk, that they can contract COVID-19, and they are not free from contracting that. We have also, with our trainers, put forth some protocol on return to play for those student athletes who do happen to test positive for COVID-19, where they will need a doctor to sign off on their return to play, stating that they are medically and physically okay to participate, and then do a return to play, like a phase-in, very similar to our concussion plan, where they increase their physical activity each day, and that is monitored by their oxygen levels, heart rate, and other items. So that will be put forth. And as of right now, basketball and hockey are slated to start for the 19th for practices and conditioning. And the game schedule will be forthcoming as we receive more information out of the Board of Control meeting that will be held this Thursday morning.
Ms. Maher,
Are there any questions?
I just wanted to make sure we talked about, as of now, because basketball and hockey are considered low risk, not by us, by CIAC and DPH. However, every student participating in any sport, inside or outside, and right now it's inside, obviously, will be required to wear a mask. If this was to...
the entire time.
Yes, the entire time. They'll never be able to take it off. So there is a lot of conversation. There is some surprise right now, but we're still going to gather more information. And if we are able to play, we are getting the Pixelate cameras, like we said, so that people can stream from their homes and watch the games live in time if that is to happen. So we'll keep you updated as we learn more.
Just a question on the cameras. Is that a 1-year thing, or is that do we have those? Are they our property?
So, Ms. Maher, do you want to explain how the Pixelate cameras work? as far as how we paid for them and what the cost is going to be.
Sure. So the Pixelate cameras are offered free by the company. It's the National Federation. They are sponsored by our current CIAC and our Athletic Directors Association, as well as nationally. So the cameras we will have for 5 years. They will be free to the school. The athletic department will be paying for the installation fee. That's $2,500, which comes out to $500 per year. And looking at what it provides us, especially during this year with fans and parents not being able to watch their kids play, we thought it was worth it to have them installed. What they do is they log in. They are able to watch the entire game in its entirety, and that would be all games and all levels. So it wouldn't just be the varsity games. It would be the freshman games, the JV games, and it would be not just for the winter, but next fall when volleyball happens. And they are able not to watch just our school, but they can watch any other school in the state or the country that also has these cameras. And there are a lot of schools in Connecticut that are adding these in, so they will be able to watch a lot of those games as well when their kids play in other gyms in our league.
Thank you.
I would like to thank Town Manager Salvatore. We had to have the permission of the town to move forward, especially for Pearson Park, and they have been wonderful. Town Manager Salvatore gave us the permission. He thinks it's a great idea, and we will be working with Mr. Lou Spino, the Director of Public Works, and obviously our facilities team, Mr. Latwinzik, to get everything installed properly. So I'd like to thank everyone for working together so we can make this happen. It really is a community effort. And the tennis courts. Oh, sorry, if any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Go ahead. Catherine, go ahead.
Do we know if there's going to be spectators for these games allowed? Like in soccer, they could have, or in the fall sports, you could have 2 come to watch. I'm not sure if they're going to allow any spectators.
Right now, we are in conversation with the Shoreline and with Mr. Neshi. The blessing of playing hasn't been given yet, so the blessing from CIAC has been DPH. I will tell you, I always tell it like it is. They definitely were reluctant, but they're getting pressure as well to, we're going to do the best we can to make sure we take all the precautions as far as indoor athletics. However, Mr. Neshi gets the final say on what will happen in the community based on community spread. And who will be able to be our spectators, how many spectators we'll be able to have. And to be honest with you, this came as a little bit of a shock that we are going to move forward the 19th. So we are literally meeting with Mr. Neshi tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning with Ms. Maher, Ms. Hansen, just to have this conversation about what are the expectations from the health department in town. As to how we're going to move forward, and then how do we make all that happen. So as of now, I don't have any of that information, but as I do, I'll update you. Okay.
Does this mean that they'll allow cheerleaders to cheer for basketball as they did for soccer in the fall?
So Ms. Maher, just correct me if I'm wrong, and as an ex-cheerleader for many, many years, is competitive, I believe competitive cheer is considered high risk, but can our cheerleaders cheer at games depending on the allotment of how many people we can have in indoors? Or is that considered high risk? Just the sport itself? Don't think
competitive cheer won't happen with the stunting and the tumbling. Sideline cheer, as it did in the fall, is allowed as long as we are allowed to have them in the gym.
Okay, that's what I thought, but
With
I
the
wanted
numbers.
to make sure. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, tennis courts.
Yes, tennis courts. Ms. Maher, would you like to talk about that? And I'm positive that Ms. Kelleher has some questions about the tennis courts.
Sure, and Tommy Latwinzik might have some information in regards to this as well. So if Tommy, just chime in if you have some as well. But as you know, the tennis courts had some cracks in them. They were assessed last year, and from there it was deemed that the teams, or the year both 2 years ago, the teams played over at Watrous Park because of the cracks that were on the course, that they were deemed unsafe for them to play for the matches that they had. So they were moved to Watrous Park for their matches. There's 2 proposals that were brought forth, 2 under each one. The first one was a repair system to repair the current cracks that are there. The first proposal looks at preparing the cracks alone and then just doing the touch-up paint on those specific cracks. Option 2 under the repair system looks at new paint on all of the course in addition to fixing the cracks. Proposal 2 is the complete reconstruction of all of the tennis courts. The first option has a 10-year warranty with it, and the second option has no warranty with it. So that's the difference in prices that you would see there.
I don't know if everyone had received the Hinding report or Hinding proposals. So basically, the first option was around $15,500. The second option was about 14.5. Am I right, Kelly?
Sorry, we're getting a lot of feedback. If people that are not speaking, that are on the line, could mute themselves, that would be appreciated.
And that would be those 2 options are not warranted, so there would be no warranty on that. We were advised also that that would be an annual thing to budget for because of the way the foundation is on those tennis courts now. They heave a lot.
You don't have to leave a light on there.
I'm sorry, if there are people that are on the line, if they could mute themselves, that would be great. Sorry, Tommy.
No problem. And the 2 different quotes we have for replacing the entire court system, that would the first one with the 10-year warranty, basically removing and replacing the entire tennis courts that are existing, footprint, the 4 courts that are there, is a mere $375,000. And the second option, which is just basically a no warranty, is $256,000. So it's, we can patch them and patch them and patch them. It's going to be an annual thing. We can go a lot of years, but it's always going to be a problem. It's something that obviously is going to be a capital non-recurring that we'll have to go approach the town, I would think, because I don't know how we would absorb this in our budget without giving them hurt seizure.
We can't absorb it in our budget, and we did. Ann Burke is on the call as well, and Miss Burke, I believe, sent an email to Miss Sylvester asking how we can go to through the process as far as asking for capital non-recurring items because we have quite a few. So, Miss Burke, I'm not sure if you want to just speak on that for a moment, so the board is informed, and it obviously will inform. It would require a team.
Well, and just before you let Ann on, there was a question I think Selena had about is this our only proposal we had? We had tried to go out and get other proposals, but Hinding has bought out their competition. So they're like the only game in town right now that we could find. There were other companies I seen around. I tried to contact them, and they basically said, "Yeah, we're not doing that anymore." So if anyone knows anybody else, I'd be happy to entertain it. So, Ann, if you're ready.
Ann, are you on? Ann Burke?
Good evening, everyone. I am here. So, in my past experiences, there has always been a set of expenses that are smaller that the Board of Education is responsible for. But in many cases, there's things that need to be done, and a great example is the tennis courts that we're talking about, that we really need the help of the town. We need
we need capital from the town in order to be able to do these bigger ticket items. My recommendation to Dr. Macri and to Mr. Litwinzik was to set up a meeting with the town to kind of discuss what their process is and when requests need to be received by, and and how we get on the list of if we needed a roof, or the tennis courts obviously are a very big ticket item. The bigger items need to go to the town to see if they can be rolled into other capital projects that the town finds have value and will be pursued. So that is my recommendation. I did contact Mary Ann Sylvester to ask her what the process was. I don't believe at this point we are in the process of gathering information so that we can set up that meeting. So that's where we stand right now.
I think it's important for the board to recognize, and we would have to have a subcommittee, that we do have quite a few of CNR items, and the two that stand out the most to me, and I believe Mr. Litwinzik and Ms. Burke as well, it are the tennis courts, and the other being the kitchen for our students who participate in family and consumer science. We were cited by the last NEASC visit, and we were told that if we do not install a brand new kitchen that is up to code, then we will not pass the next NEASC visit, which is in about 1.5 to 2 years on if it stays on schedule. Am I right, Mrs. DiFiore? We start now.
Actually, the initial there are 2 visits now that they do. The initial visit will kind of set the groundwork. I think that's in if I'm remembering right, it'll be in a year.
Yes.
It'll be the spring of 2022.
And that's when they come and tell us of what we need to do. So when they show up, that's a big project. We don't want them to show up and tell us that we still need to get that done, because we obviously want to have that completed before they do, or at least underway, so that they see that it is underway. So I know COVID and everything else has really taken over, but we do need to have these conversations, and eventually also have a conversation about ECS and CMS, both buildings, and we know we can't do 2 at once, but they both really do need, they need a lot of, they need to be redone. And we need to continue that conversation again. And we did put it to a halt, and rightfully so. It was too much, but we need to get back to that conversation as well, along with the kitchen, the tennis courts, and CNR. So I will be bringing that forward in the future.
Do you want to put that on a
Yeah.
specific?
Yes, we should. I was going to put it on the facilities committee, have all of that go on to our facilities committee first, and then we can have a subgroup. If I'm not sure, Chairman Matrullo, how would you like to do it? Would you like to do it that way?
That's fine.
And then pick the subcommittee for that, because obviously when we go and do our proposal for the town for CNR, I will definitely need Board of Education support and representatives. So do we want to pull from that, or do we want to pull from the entire board?
Well, can the facilities committee be the subcommittee, or are you looking for?
I definitely don't see why not, as long as the facilities committee does not mind. That may be a big.
I mean, I think that's fine.
Okay.
At the next meeting, the next facilities meeting, if you can discuss it, and if there is a need for more than one committee, then we can do that, or to expand the facilities committee for that purpose. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so we will talk to the facilities committee about CNR funding, beginning with our kitchen at the high school for NEASC and tennis courts, and then start having re-engaging in our conversation about CMS and ECS building projects.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay. Okay, on to new business. Item A, reopening plan update. Dr. Macri, the floor is yours.
Okay. So reopening, obviously there is a lot of data in and out, and it changes daily between the end of school and before I got here. Mrs. Hanson gave me a new update, and Mrs. Hanson, Jillian Hanson, is on the call, and I cannot thank her enough. Again, incredible team of health advisory team. So I'm going to give you the numbers first, and then I'll have Mrs. Hanson speak and answer questions on anything that you have, and then I'll give you the recommendation as how we're going to move, what I suggest on how we move forward, and not just my own suggestion, but with the team, the advisory committee that met yesterday morning. Right now, we have 0 active cases at ECS, no students, no adults. At WIS, we have 8 active cases. Want to make sure I'm right here. I'm sorry, 4. We have 4 active cases at WIS, and I won't give you because it'll be then identifiable. But 4 active cases at CMS. We have 2. At the high school, we have 8, and so that gives us 8, 9, 10, 11. So 14 active cases at the moment. We have about 23 staff quarantined, and we have about 51 students quarantined. That may change a little bit tomorrow with the 2 positives that just came in after 5 o'clock as far as quarantining. So there's a lot of conversation about opening up school and when are we going to reopen, and should we have reopened when we did. As I shared with you, and I will always share with you, the data, the numbers as far as our community, plus the numbers in our school community as far as should we open schools in hybrid, should we be in remote, should we be full in session. And at this point, looking at the data, looking at the quarantining, our capacity to staff. As you know, we decided to open in full on January 4th for the elementary schools, elementary and intermediate, and then we went to, we stuck with the hybrid plan for secondary. We have had quite a few, so this is the active cases, but we've had quite a few active, you're on, you're off, because it depends, at the high school, and we have an entire department that we really do need to run a full school, and they're going to be out for at least 10 to 14 days. So the high school is in a little bit of a pickle, plus we've had quite a few students that have contracted, and then their 10 days is over, and then they're not considered active anymore. But that has been happening at a little bit of a higher rate. The middle school, we also have, as far as quarantining, not active cases, we also have another department that is very difficult to run the school without, and we are very short-handed in the office for a variety of reasons. It's very difficult to bring back all of the students and say that we can effectively run secondary right now, and we are also concerned with the case, not as it's not the number of cases, but it's how often we are getting them. So how many we've had on and off. So Mrs. Hanson, Jillian Hanson, if you want to capitalize on that, that would be wonderful. As of today, in speaking with Mr. Salneshi and Mrs. Hanson and Mrs. Grandy, and with other superintendents. Today was my HASA call, and my our Department of Public Health call. I am recommending that we continue with full in-person learning for ECS and WIS. and that could change tomorrow, as you all know. And I am recommending that we stay in hybrid for at least 2 more weeks. And we have, we revisit all the time. We look at the numbers every single day and talk about them. But I'm thinking, we are thinking, Mr. Neshi, as far as the holiday, getting through the holiday positives, that we would revisit on the 25th and have a decision for families by the 28th of January as to whether or not we will reopen secondary, meaning the middle school and the high school, on Monday, February 1st, is the day that I am now shooting for. Mrs. Hanson, do you want to add anything to why you think we agreed on, what your take was on our conversation?
Yeah, the only thing I would really add is last week, the cases that came up were all home. So we didn't have to quarantine a lot of people in the school because the contact dates were during the time that the kids were off. So we're now moving into, we saw a lot more this week where we had to quarantine again more students with each case. And that will continue. And if we go back now into full, that will increase the amount of people we have to quarantine greatly. We will be back to, especially at the high school, with them having credited courses. They move around and they're not cohorted. So you're looking at big numbers with what's the case when they're in a classroom fully in. So that's, an additional reason why we want to hold off and see what the numbers. We're still looking at what's happening with the holidays.
Also,
and I'm happy.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Hanson.
No. I just was going to say I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Before we ask Mrs. Hanson questions, I really would like everybody to understand. I think it's hard for people to picture this. A lot of people, and actually just one parent, have asked, why not hybrid at the elementary level? And what I'm trying to hold off on is, first, we can cohort much better, although people have differing opinions. We have to remember the CDC guidelines, and they've been working well for us so far, is 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. It is not easy, but we are able to cohort a little bit better at the elementary level. What is a reality is that we are a working community and that our families have to go to work. So if at this point, in March, in the spring, a lot of families, most families, they had at least one parent or a family member home, so they could stay home with their child. That isn't the case anymore. So what will happen is that, and we've seen it happen in other districts, that decided to start in hybrid and they're stuck there is that what's happening is we have our students coming here to ECS and WIS 2.5 days a week, or 2 days, whatever we decided, and then they would have to go to another daycare provider for 2 to 2.5 days a week. So now they're being exposed to 2 different cohorts of students and 2 different cohorts of adults. So that puts us in a much more complicated situation as far as quarantining and the like. So it doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying that it is difficult. It is difficult. It is difficult to keep the 6 feet, and to say that at elementary level, are we keeping 6 feet all the time? No, the mandate is not that. It is to the best of our ability, and I would say anywhere between 3.5, 4 feet to 6 feet is where we are at. However, the other mitigation strategies are proving to work, and I'm afraid that if we go backwards, we're going to mess with something that's working for us. I also, along with that, I will always put the safety and well-being of the students and the staff first, but we have to keep our kids in school. as much as we possibly can. I am a huge proponent of keeping our students in school, and I listened the other day to the National Institute for Mental Health. The director was on C-SPAN, and he talked a lot about students and their mental health and mental health in general for everyone who's going through. We're all going through it. This is a lot of trauma for everyone, in different ways. But there's an increase as far as suicidal ideation, anxiety, and depression for elementary students, and this is according to NIMF, increased since March by 21%, and in teenagers by 31%. So that's the research that's out there and available to us right now, and we know that our students need their services, and for the most part, they're getting their services here because so many services that are not they're not face to face, they're telephone or through Skyping or whatever they're doing, FaceTiming. It's good, it's better than nothing, but it's not the same as having your cognitive behavioral health therapy. So with that data, it just that is truly, besides the academic data, which of course we're all going to have concerns, and you're going to hear about the concerns academically when we present the budget, but the mental health data of our students who are not participating in activities, who are not coming to school, the students who are reluctant learners, we are doing everything we can to get them involved. We had to start a program at CMS, which we've been doing for years, but it's double than it has been in the past, of students that are failing. And we're talking 8s and 10s, and teachers are doing everything they can at administration, and even parents. They're working their tails off to get the students to re-engage, but they are not re-engaging. And we are going to offer in-person learning, even to families who are nervous about sending their kids to school during the day because of the population, so that they can come and have tutoring sessions after school, because that's how concerned we are. So I know it's difficult to hear. I do believe our schools need to stay open. That is Governor Lamont's and Commissioner Cardona, who's now going to be our Secretary of Education. We want to keep our schools open as long as we possibly and safely can. And so that's the reasoning behind the elementary piece. So if you have any questions for me or for Ms. Hanson, I love to answer them. That's the update for reopening.
Lori.
Mine's not really a question, just a comment. I just think we need to be really careful about going at the CMS and the high school back. If we're going to go from hybrid to full, we have to really weigh the risk we're taking of having to possibly go back to remote because we're back in the same situation of all the quarantines where we were before. You know, nobody wants that. And so is hybrid great? No, but it's better than full remote. So I totally support what you're doing. I totally agree with you. I just feel we all want the kids back full time, but if we do that, we might be taking one step forward and 2 steps back and be in a much worse spot than we're in right now.
I'm happy you brought that up because we are still in a good place as far as students who are attending during hybrid compared to other districts that are in full. So we have more student participation while in hybrid than districts that have decided to remain in full in person and keeping their buildings open all the time. Because of that, they're afraid. And we do have students, I've heard from students who are anxious about coming back in full capacity. And then we have, I will say that our students are so excited to be here, and they want to be here, and they want to be here safely. I don't make this decision lightly. I look at all of the data, and I agree with you, Mrs. Cantwell, that we want to move forward, but right now we also know that there is a mutation of COVID, which we know the vaccine will also, we're being told, will address. So we want to really be careful. We don't want to go back into full remote. And the worry, we want to lay our eyes on our kids. The fear is that we won't be able to do that right now and not promise that we would end up in quarantine based on how many situations we have had and the high case rate, which has decreased in Cromwell over the last two weeks tremendously. So that's a good thing.
Catherine?
I have a couple questions. Before our last meeting, we discussed the number of students that were full remote, and I believe at the high school, half of the population was full remote, and the other half of the population was in the hybrid method. Is that still about the case?
Ms. DeFiore, do you want to speak to that as far as the hybrid and how it's working at the high school, about how many students we have that are participating, who's on full remote?
We have, right now, it's fluctuating because we are receiving quite a few emails over the past week about making a transition either way. So it's been a flip-flop, but we have, I think, approximately 200 on a remote parallel, maybe a little bit over 200, and we have a population of 350 students. So when you think about that, that's about I'm sorry, we have 550 students total with 200 remote, so that's 350 divided in half at any given time. So that's about, 175 when we're in a hybrid? That makes sense?
That does. And I remember the middle school was something similar in numbers-wise. So the other question I had is, you mentioned that there were, it sounded like 2 departments, maybe one at the high school, one at the middle school, that are full-on quarantined. How does that happen?
Well, I'd like to say we're all human and we all make errors, and I do put out memos. I have put out memos. I truly believe in particular situations. It is very difficult to do your job when you're working with students with special needs that need you to be there for them. And it really means not just you, but the entire pupil personnel staff, the entire support staff. And can something happen where you're supporting a student or something is going without being identifiable? Yes, it can. I truly believe in particular situations. I don't believe any of it is done on purpose. I don't believe anybody wants to get sick. I believe we get a little lackadaisy sometimes. I believe we get put in situations that we have to react. And the reaction in some of these situations is absolutely 100% in the best interest of students and not of your, it's always put your mask on first, you're the kid, and then worry about everybody else. And whether you're wearing in this situation your mask or not, and you might not be within that 6 feet, you're doing it in the best interests and the best intent for those students. And I truly believe that is what happened. And those are the people I want working here with our kids. I want, we have to be careful. All of us have to be careful. I say it all the time. We all say it. Our administrators say it. Our teachers say it to each other. Our kids say it. But when you're in that situation, sometimes everything kind of goes out the window. And then before you know it, someone's positive and now you're quarantined. And that could happen. We also, I'm concerned. I worry about all of our staff. I worry a lot about our paraprofessionals, but just by the nature of their job. They are definitely in close contact with more than we would like. The 6 feet apart. It's almost impossible, especially for the younger grade levels. And then there are slip-ups. I did send out a reminder yesterday from adult to adult. We just have to be so careful. It's very, very hard to do, but we have to be cognizant of every step that we make and how many minutes we are near one person, because you just don't know what could happen. And it always hits you as a surprise. You don't think it's going to happen until it happens to you. And so it does happen. I do not believe any malicious intent. I do believe in situations where it's because of student situations. It's because all well-intentioned, they want to do what's best for our students. I truly believe that. Other situations, it could become frustrating because we say it over and over again. But it happens, and that's what happened this week. And it wasn't just, it's different departments. It's, we have 175 people who work here or more. Am I wrong? 300, that's what I thought. 175 teachers, 300 total. Tommy just gave me the cue. Can you tell I'm a little tired? And we're going to make mistakes, and that happens.
Thank you. Anything else, Lori?
Can I ask you a question when there's a moment?
Sure, Selena, go ahead.
Is now okay?
Yes, please.
Just going back to the cohorting, and I know with certain staff it's more difficult, like you mentioned, Enzo, with the paras, and probably subs, I imagine. And I just wondered how we're doing with limiting where those paras are going in the building throughout the day, because I know, like in the building I work in, we've been trying to figure out how we can kind of remain in a certain few classrooms, because in my district we're going to be going full in soon. So just trying to think ahead of how to keep the cohorting for those staff members as well. That might be helpful, and then they're not all over the building. So I don't know if that's something we've done in Cromwell or can look into.
Sure. I agree with you. It's very, very difficult, but we do have Mrs. O'Leary back from maternity, and she's here this evening, and I'm sure she can answer that question. I always feel like we can do better at that. It also is difficult because we have 22 teachers streaming in at the moment, so Ms. DeMoro's done a great job with hiring subs. However, it's never enough, so we do have our paras covering classrooms sometimes so that the teacher can stream in while the para is covering. There are situations that happen spur of the moment, and I agree with you. It is difficult to keep our paras working with the same students every single day, and I do believe we're doing a decent job. We can always do better, but Miss O'Leary could answer that question as well.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Selena. Yeah, and I'll piggyback, what Dr. Macri said. It's not perfect. We had this conversation in the beginning of the school year. Where can we have less transition, with our paras? We know, we are working with the most vulnerable population, obviously. Our students have a lot of needs. So we have, I would say, done an okay job, again, not perfect, not 100% of where we can not have paras transition as much as they normally would. But, we still have students who, it's not benefiting them to have the same para all day. So we are having, one para with them in the morning, one in the afternoon. That's very, very candid. Just because we also need to think about the needs of our adults that are working with the students and the students' needs. But where we can, I would say, we try our best to try to eliminate, those transition as much as possible and reduce the exposure. But again, it's not perfect because our number one goal is to support the students. So, but where we can, we are making every attempt. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you. And I know that's really, really challenging. Just one quick suggestion. I'm sure that Mrs. Grandy or Mrs. Hanson has already started doing something like this. But another thing is to just keep track of they go in so many different classrooms. I don't know how it's done, but just keeping track of it on a daily basis so that if you have to contact trace for them, it would just make it much easier.
Yes, we our contact tracing, Mrs. Hanson, myself, Mr. Neshi, Miss Grandy, and our administration, we're going to take the show on the road. I think we could sell something. We have it down pat, and making sure we locate everyone who's in the classroom or working with a student or on the bus or whatever the situation. We ask a lot of questions, and we have a whole formal sheet that we check in and make sure we did everything that we were supposed to do.
Thanks, Selena. Is that all, or did you have another question?
No, I'm all set.
Oh, okay, thank you. Lori.
Yeah, I just want to clarify from Catherine's question when she asked about the department, how does that happen? So you referenced special needs students in your answer, but I mean, paras, everybody has their masks on, so I don't really know if I understood what the answer was.
It's the 6 feet. So the difficult part when we contact trace is many of our students, and rightfully so, it is part of our job. We have to work a little bit closer than 6 feet, sometimes a lot a bit closer than 6 feet with our students who have special needs. That is our responsibility. It's in their IEP. We have to do well by them. Everyone is always wearing their masks, but when you get quarantined, for example, if a child with special needs or the adult working with the child or another adult in the room, that 6 feet, whether you have your mask on or off, it doesn't count. You still would be quarantined, or you still would be put out. You would still be put out because of that proximity. Yeah.
I just didn't understand how that impacted a whole department.
Well, I don't want to talk about it because then I'll give away the situation. It was a very unique situation. I want to really not make it identifiable, but I really 100%. And we have to realize, too, our offices for related services are very small, which is why I said, okay, we need to revisit this. You go from one school, like WIS, where offices for related services, special education supports, whatever it is, 504 supports, the offices are very big because obviously it's a newer school, decent size here. But if you were to walk through CMS and ECS and saw the size of they're small. So yes, do we have the 6 feet proximity? I would say by an inch. And in some situations there are no windows. So we always have to err on the side of caution. And honestly, I said in certain situations, I'm like, oh, there's a better chance of us getting struck by lightning than of that happening because you can't believe that it could possibly happen, and it did, and it does. We've been in a few of those situations. So I do believe that our staff, they're doing a great job, and I will never fault them when they do what they need to do for our students. I want them to stay healthy. I want our students to stay healthy. But when that happens, those are the people that I want to work here.
Thank you. Anything further? Dipti, go ahead.
I was going to say I can really attest to what you're saying about that. I can never get this to work. That how one person coming down and with this small area, you would have so many people in quarantine. It's a situation I work in, and if one person got it, we would easily have 15 people out for 2 weeks.
Thank you. Catherine?
I just have one last question. At our last meeting when we discussed the new CDC guidelines for quarantining, if you've come in contact with someone, they were not allowing schools to follow those new guidelines because transmission in younger children is different than in adults. However, are we allowing our teachers to follow those newer guidelines so they can get back, or even any adult in the building so they can get back to the building sooner?
Mrs. Hanson, would you like to take that question? Not yet. Mrs. Russ and Mr. Neshi has the final say on that. Mrs. Hanson, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The CDC guidelines still recommend that the 14 days is the best alternative. So the reason that they went to a 10 or a 7-day quarantine is based on the fact that there's a lower percentage of people that turn positive in those last 5 days. It does require testing on day 5, and then you still have to monitor your symptoms for those remaining either 7 or 4 days. So the end result is that the locals have the decision on whether we stay with the 14-day rules. And that was the reasoning behind it, is because the 14 days is still the best way to mitigate things, even though the CDC has changed their guidelines, and that was based more on people not following the quarantine.
Thank you.
Of 14, because it was too long.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help?
And that could change. Some districts have made that change already, and other districts have not. And again, that is the only way you can test out of quarantine is really in that past the 14 days. I hate to say test, but get out of it to the capacity of the 24 days is to go to Mr. Neshi and plead your case, and he will ask you all the questions of, are you able to separate yourself from the person who, he asks you many questions, and most of the time people can't answer yes to those because we don't all live in a house with 5 bathrooms and 5 kitchens and such. But that is something that we talk about every single time we talk about revisiting.
Thank you. Every time we have the discussion, that's one less time we have to have it, hopefully. So, I know. But it'll be on the agenda going forward. Yeah. Okay. Item B, half-day Wednesday discussion.
Okay. So when we first started the school year, and this obviously first time starting a new school year with COVID and a pandemic situation, we worked with our teachers union, our EAC, and all of our unions to try to figure out what is the school year, predict what the school year will look like and what will working conditions look like. And, many of us said we'll be here for a month and then we'll be on hybrid maybe for a couple of weeks and then we'll be on remote until February. And that was what a lot of people were thinking because we really didn't know. And the data, the addendum 5, addendum 9 changed based on data that was provided from real-time situations. So when we wrote our MOA, and you all know you voted on it, we did have that when we were in hybrid, teachers would be early released on Wednesdays because they really are working with students that are home, and they're streaming in, and they're working with students that are in the classroom, and the planning component of that is very difficult. At that time, including me, my intention was the whole district will be in hybrid, the whole district will be in remote. I never really thought one school will be in remote, one will be in hybrid, one will be in full capacity. So as we have it, that's happened, and we want to stay in full capacity. However, what is happening is that our families at WIS and ECS, and rightfully so, a lot of students are coming to school, and we want to keep our schools open. However, we do have many students streaming in remotely as well, and that requires a lot of planning, and that opportunity is being given to the middle school and the high school teachers, and they use that time very wisely. However, our elementary teachers do not have that because they're in full capacity. So we have 5 teachers that would like to speak from WIS and ECS about what it's like and why they truly need a half-day dismissal once a week for planning purposes, because this is the way things have changed and progressed over time. I was going to bring this to you last month, and then I wasn't sure if we were even going to be here based on the numbers. And I did speak to Chairman Matrullo about putting it on the agenda for this month, and it is on the agenda so that we can talk about it. And I do have 5 teachers that are on the call, and they are going to let you know more specifically because they live the day-to-day. So we have, we'll start with Nicolette Burns from ECS. She teaches grade 1, and she would like to provide, have an opportunity to talk to you about the half-days.
Hi, Dr. Macri. This is Amy Carta, and if it's okay with you, I would like to start for ECS, and then Nicolette would follow me.
Sure.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Carta. I'm a kindergarten teacher at ECS, and I've been teaching for 16 years in kindergarten. On behalf of the teachers at ECS, my colleagues Nicolette Burns and Peggy Lair and I wanted to share with you why we're in need of the extra planning time on Wednesday afternoons that our middle school and high school colleagues have had, especially since we are continuing to operate at full capacity. As you know, COVID has changed every aspect of teaching. It has brought about new challenges for teachers to problem solve and to plan for. We have been and will remain committed to doing the very best for our students. Planning for in-person learners has changed drastically this year. Prior to COVID, every minute of our planning time had been utilized. Just so you're aware, daily teacher responsibilities include planning and instruction, analyzing data to drive instruction, collaborating with colleagues in the best interest of our students, including school psychologists, school social workers, behavior specialists, ELL teachers, reading and math specialists. We are compiling data, anecdotal notes for parent conferences and parent communication. We're administering and scoring assessments, communicating with families, logging assessment data into the district system, and planning and differentiating instruction for all students. The current pandemic has made it increasingly difficult for teachers to create meaningful learning experiences for our students. With the COVID safety guidelines, students are not allowed to share materials unless they are sanitized or quarantined between use. As you can imagine, in elementary school, there are several hands-on materials. Because of this, we are now making individual sets of materials for each of our in-person students. These materials are materials, that students would usually share, such as math manipulatives, math game boards, guided reading books, word skill activities, and classroom library books, just to name a few. In the past, students were able to gather these materials on their own, but now the responsibility falls solely on the classroom teacher so that multiple hands are not going through materials. This takes several hours of work each week and has also become more challenging this year because our prep time is not currently in our classrooms anymore due to humanities having to teach in our classrooms. Since we are not in the classrooms during our prep times, teachers have been spending more and more hours before and after school to get this work done. Having the extra time in our classrooms on half-day Wednesdays would allow us the opportunity to get some of this important work done. As professionals, we know how important it is to create engaging learning activities for our students. We also know the importance of limiting their screen time during the school day. While it may be easier for us to teach all learners on their tablets for the majority of the day, we know this is not best practice, especially for our youngest learners. So in order to accomplish this, we sometimes need to create and or find and purchase new resources and new materials to make hands-on learning occur in the classroom as often as possible. Now, in addition to planning for our in-person learners, we are simultaneously planning for students learning remotely. As you know, these students are streaming into the classroom in order to receive instruction from home. Some students are fully remote, while others might be remote while they quarantine. The number of students who live stream, as you know, can fluctuate daily. Therefore, teachers are currently teaching in a hybrid model, even though our school is operating at full capacity. Some of the things that we need to do to plan for our remote students include creating daily assignments for them to complete and turn in during their independent work time. It takes several hours a week to create and upload a week's worth of assignment for those students. We organize and prepare physical work to send home to the students, especially because they're so young. Some families don't have printers at home, and they need the hard copies of the work, which means trying to prep at least a week in advance to make it easier for the family so they don't have to come back and forth picking up material several times during a week. We also want to make sure that our remote learners have the same materials as our students in the classroom as often as possible. Students can go remote at any time, and it takes time to get materials together and to check in with parents to ensure that they have what they need to transition smoothly to home learning. Remote learning also requires extra communication between school and home, and having the extra time on Wednesdays would allow us time to check in with our students and families and communicate any assignments that are missing and to give feedback to assignments that have been completed. Teachers need the additional time also to share instructions and troubleshoot with families, especially those who are newly remote. So as you can see, there is so much to prepare for to ensure that all of our students are able to work and learn at their full potential. We want to thank you for your time and consideration, and Nicolette is going to share a couple of other ways that we would benefit from the extra time on half-day Wednesdays.
Hi, my name is Nicolette Burns, and I'm a first grade teacher here at ECS, and I've been teaching for 7 years. Teachers are aware that at any point our school could become fully remote. In order to be prepared, teachers need to have additional resources ready and available. For example, teachers create teaching slides to assist with online learning. All of our accumulated teaching materials are meant for teaching in person, so half days on Wednesdays would allow us time to prepare materials for teaching those same lessons virtually without losing the integrity of the lesson and without losing our pace with the curriculum. Another way that teachers would utilize the extra time on Wednesdays would be to meet virtually with our teams. Much of our PLC time this year has been planned and scheduled for us, and we have a limited amount of opportunities to meet as our team with our teammates and effectively plan and communicate with one another. This year, these important meetings have been taking place either before or after school and sometimes even on the weekends using Zoom. In years past, we have eaten lunch together and used that time to plan and communicate about important matters. Since we are social distancing as much as possible, we are not able to use this time to effectively communicate with each other. Half days on Wednesdays could be used to meet in our teams to effectively plan, communicate, and collaborate with each other. This year, more than ever, it is so important that we continue to monitor our students' social and emotional health and wellness. Just as Dr. Macri spoke about this at tonight's meeting, we understand how important this is for our students. This pandemic has been difficult for all of us, and we are in need of time to collaborate with our support staff to be sure that we are meeting the social and emotional needs of our students. Having the extra time on Wednesdays would really allow us time to collaborate, not only with our teams, but also with members of other teams as well. Thank you so much for your consideration. Finally, Peggy will share some additional ways that humanities teachers would benefit from the extra time on Wednesday afternoon.
Hello, my name is Peggy Lair, and I am an art teacher at ECS. As a humanities teacher, the COVID pandemic has greatly impacted our workload as it has the classroom teachers. At ECS, we have 22 classrooms with live streamers, students who are remote due to COVID concerns, and 3 classrooms with students who chose to be remote at the start of this school year. The number of live streamers can be anywhere from 50 to 100 per week for us as they change daily. We prepare lessons for those students that are members of the fully remote classrooms weekly. These lessons are not live and often require recording videos, researching virtual materials, and creating virtual classrooms with linked activities. Each week, it is necessary to upload materials for live streamers, remote learners, and students in class due to not being allowed to share materials. This also includes gathering materials to send home to students not in personal learning, such as drawing materials, paper, clay, and paint, so students can experience the same activities that the in-person students are. This can take 2 to 3 hours of time on top of our daily responsibilities. We understand that these are things that need to be done for all students to get the best education possible this year. When we chose to be teachers, we did it for our love of learning, our want to share our depth of knowledge, and to see the smiles of success on children's faces. A half day on Wednesdays would allow us to organize and prepare all the materials the students will need and complete more of the tasks that are in place now during this pandemic. In summary, we all became teachers to positively impact the lives of our students. We are all going above and beyond to give them the best possible instruction during this challenging time. As professionals, we have always spent more than our planning time to prepare for our students. This year, we have spent countless hours preparing for every scenario. Although we have been told that things don't have to be perfect, we strive to give our students, your children, our very best. We would truly appreciate the extra planning time on Wednesdays. Thank you for allowing us the time to share our concerns with you with the hope that you will allow us half-day Wednesdays for professional time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carta, Ms. Burns, and Ms. Lair. You just heard from ECS staff, and now we'll hear from staff at WIS. We have Mr. Dalia, and we have Mrs. Selza, and whoever would like to go first may go first.
Hi, Dr. Macri. This is Dan Dalia. I'll be brief. Hello, members of the board, administration, and community. Thank you for giving me a minute to speak to you about a very important topic on tonight's agenda. I know that you have a lot to discuss this evening, so I'll keep my comments brief. I'm coming to you from the perspective of a teacher who currently teaches science, STEM, and enrichment at WIS to the entire student body. I'm in every class every week, and I see every student multiple times weekly. I'm also the guy who greets the students at drop-off every day and a father of 2 wonderful children. Finally, I sit on the Newtown Board of Education as vice chair. Needless to say, I wear many hats in the field of education and bring a multitude of perspectives to my comments this evening. I would like to encourage the board to support Dr. Macri in allowing ECS and WIS to go to half days on Wednesdays during the pandemic. This decision will directly benefit the students by giving teachers more time to prepare, plan, collaborate, grade, differentiate materials and methods, and the list goes on and on. This request does not come out of a need for less time in class, but for a need for the necessary time to plan for students who are receiving instruction in class and virtually at the same time. This pandemic has created countless challenges, and I can't tell you in words how honored I am to work with such a dedicated, professional, and loving staff as I do here in Cromwell. We are working tirelessly to provide for the students, and the students are thriving. But the teachers need more time, and the time these Wednesday half-days would provide would be priceless and benefit the students greatly. It would give the dedicated staff the time needed to work together and plan for our multimodal learning environment and serve the students of Cromwell as effectively as possible. I promise to keep it brief, so in closing, thank you again for your time. I care for every student in the Cromwell family and would not make this request if I did not believe it was the best for the students, because in true Cromwell spirit, this additional planning time will allow us to continue to place students first. Thank you.
Ms. Salza?
Hello, my name is Michaela Selza. Oh, thank you so much. Dr. Macri, administration, the Board of Education, and the Cromwell community. I wanted to first thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Michaela Selza, and I am a 5th grade teacher at Woodside Intermediate School. I started my journey in Cromwell when I completed my student teaching at WIS in 2015, and I have worked for this amazing school system ever since. I am so proud to work with such a distinguished school system with dedicated educators and exceptional families and students. I have been asked to speak to you tonight in regards to the proposal of half days for WIS and ECS. The WIS community fully backs Dr. Macri's decision to have these 2 schools have a half day each week on Wednesday. Since earlier this year, we here at WIS have moved into the new role of teaching students virtually and in person. My classroom ranges from 2 virtual students to 10 virtual students on a given day. This new style of teaching requires thoughtful planning to maintain student engagement and student achievement. The availability of a half day for planning provides the opportunities for teachers to collaborate and to research new resources. We believe as a team we can find ways to innovate and engage all students, but it requires time together. If we are given the opportunity to have a half day once a week, we can work with our colleagues to find the most effective tools
to meet the specific needs of each of our students. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today about implementing the half day for WIS and ECS. This time will be greatly beneficial to help teachers find the most innovative strategies to assess, enrich, and meet the needs of our Cromwell learners. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delia and Ms. Selza. And that concludes our comments from our staff at ECS and WIS, and I do thank them for all the time they put into trying to make every student's experience as best as it possibly can be during a very difficult time. I never thought 28 years ago when I went into this profession that this is the way we would be teaching and learning and educating our students. But it's been difficult, but we are doing it, and I'm proud of the work that we are doing. So thank you very much. We do have a non-meeting at the end of the meeting where we can discuss, but if anyone has any questions for myself or for the team that just spoke, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Sure.
I don't know if they can hear me, but either like Ms. Selza or Ms. Carta, do the volume of virtual learners change the amount of prep work do you have to do? As, for example, you have one virtual learner versus you have 15 virtual learners. Isn't the prep work the same, or is there can you explain what the variance would be with the more virtual learners?
Sure. So before I pass that off, a lot of it has to do, I think it's so difficult because we are differentiating instruction all the time for all learners, and depending on who's remote and who's in their seats, the differentiation changes. So if you're giving a lesson, depending on what the lesson is and depending on which students are streaming in live, and then you have to differentiate for those particular students, you're looking at different kids all the time, especially kids who are quarantining, out for 14 days, out for 10. So it does change. And a big part of the piece of the puzzle that we didn't necessarily take into consideration was how many things, and we know that our youngest learners, they need the hands-on, the tactile. So we have to send things home, and parents are picking things up. So our teachers are preparing those items for parents to pick up, and then they also have to make sure that they're preparing all of those things that they used to be able to just put in the middle of the desk, and the students could share it. That's disappeared. Everyone has to have their own stuff, and they can't touch it, and they can't. So a lot of the things that we just have taken for granted, and if you put it all together, it does take time. But if any of the teachers, if one of you would like to chime in on the question, that's completely fine. Otherwise, if you are happy with my response, that's fine too. It's up to you.
This is Amy Carta. I wanted to say, Dr. Macri, that I would have said pretty much exactly what you said. It would be, on the fly, easy for us to upload the same assignment that our, let's say, full-time remote learner is doing, but that might not be the most beneficial or effective assignment for that particular student. So while we could give them something to work on quickly, it wouldn't necessarily be at the level that they're learning at. So it wouldn't be, the best practice, and that does take time to create. So thank you, Dr. Macri, for saying that.
Sure.
Anything?
Hi, this is Nicolette Burns. I just had one more thing to add as well. A lot of what the prep work that goes into it, too, it's not so much of the preparing. Like Mrs. Carter said, we can use somewhat what is made for the other virtual learners, but it's also the time to set up for these students to make sure they have the correct materials, like Dr. Macri said, and also to make sure the parents are aware, because the parents are very overwhelmed. They were just told to quarantine. They might have worries of their own, and then they're trying to figure out the technology. So it's also time to reach out to them, to settle them into that virtual learning, make sure they're comfortable with how they can help on that end, and know that we're here to support them. So that takes time as well. And those Wednesdays would be a great time without the students in the classroom, able to make those phone calls and connections with families and really support them.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Jeff.
Selena, was that you?
Can I just ask a clarifying question, Jeff?
Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick question, and if I missed part of this, I'm sorry, but I just wondered, is this just for the interim while we're having, these virtual learning going on, or is this something that's being requested going forward? Is there an end? You know what I mean? Is there an end to this, or is this just a request that will be permanent?
So my request is to follow the MOA, the collective bargaining agreement that we made, and just make a small tweak to it. It says that while we're in hybrid, the students would be released at a half day, and what we didn't expect is that we would be in hybrid at secondary and not at the elementary level. So it's not cut and dry. However, if secondary is at the hybrid level, is working at the hybrid, I would like elementary to be working at hybrid as well. If we realize that we have to stay at the hybrid learning module at the high school for a little bit longer than the middle school, that could possibly happen. We don't know. Then I would like to continue to do the half-day early dismissal Wednesdays. Once we're back in and we're full, and we're all full, the half-day Wednesday dismissals go away for everyone. So I would like that ability to make that decision with the administration as the situations change. But I am asking for when a school or secondary particularly are in hybrid, that we allow the same thing for our elementary schools that are in full capacity. So I would inform parents. It is I understand it's difficult, and I am asking parents, to rearrange their schedules. But to say there's going to be a specific end date would be when I can say that I would have a specific end date to when we would need hybrid altogether, and realistically I can't provide that date. I will do my best to give at least a week's notice, and it could change because we know how, unfortunately, how COVID is. It can change. So I can't give I can give a start date. I would like to start on January 20th, which is next week. But to give an end date would be very difficult to do because I feel like it would be misleading.
I guess
and I'm in support of it, and 100%, just so you know. I think that that's the least we can do for our teaching staff. I just wondered when we were full back and all this COVID was behind us, if it would be reassessed, but I'm in support of it.
Yes, once we're full back and we can have our schools in full capacity, I do believe that we will be able to have and be in full capacity. However, there will be some touch and go because there will be times maybe where CMS is in hybrid and the high school isn't, or vice versa. And when we have one of our schools in hybrid, I would like to allow the teachers to stay in half-day dismissal until we can get everybody back full-time. And does that mean, can that happen until the end of the year? I'd like to say no, but I don't know.
So you're saying, let's say, for example, completely hypothetical, that the high school and the middle school go back full-time on February 1st. Does that mean that everybody loses their half-day Wednesdays?
Yes, that does.
So they would only get, in reality, 2 half-day Wednesdays?
Correct.
Which is minimal help for them, but it's...
We could always come back. That's the intention of having... we can always come back and have a discussion with the board. The reason why I bring it to you is because we made it very clear with any MOA that I was to come to the board and present why I would like to change it. That doesn't always necessarily happen at all in all districts. The superintendent does have the ability to make that change on her or his own. However, I am being respectful of your wishes and bringing that forward. It is not the entire MOA. It's a small piece of the MOA. which we can talk about further in the future. But right now, the intent is that once we're back in full capacity, we're back in full capacity, and that means everyone comes back. Once we go into hybrid, we then go back to half-day Wednesday, depending if it's at one school or another. We could make a decision when we talk, and you can think about it, until it's really stable is my intent. When, we're, and really stable meaning as stable as we think we're going to get with COVID. To continue those half days while we're in hybrid, and I say we'll come back and revisit in 2 weeks, and I hope we'll be back on February 1st. But I don't know, because it's difficult. It's difficult for me to predict. I literally take it day by day.
Lori?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about when we're back full time. So say we're back full time, and say there's families that still don't feel comfortable sending their kids to school. So say, I'm just throwing this, say in April we're all back full time. Just throwing that out there.
Mm-hmm.
There may be families that say, oh, I don't think let's just stay home for the rest of the year. We've done it this long. So there still could be remote learners. So I guess my question would be, would we at that point, we're back full time, so the half days would no longer be?
They would no longer exist, and when we're in full capacity, unless you're telling me, which I think I'm hearing. Okay, that's why I said I'm not sure what I'm hearing. Yes, that is for clarification. The intent is, when secondary, and I say that as middle and high, are in remote, or maybe perhaps just the high school, that we would give that same courtesy to the elementary school. And perhaps it may be we're in full for 2 weeks, and we go back to hybrid, and I make that decision to just continue with elementary with those half-day Wednesdays for maybe another week or two to give them some reprieve, and then we all come back. I want the ability to be able to do that without really, having your permission. But I don't mind having your permission. I just want you to know that I'll be bringing it up quite often. We could talk about that on how you want me to handle it. And I am, I hear what Mrs. Cantwell is saying, and that is very true. We will still have remote learners for the entire year, no matter what. That isn't going to change. I'm trying to strike a balance of helping families and helping our teachers. And that's obviously been the most difficult part of my job, besides keeping everybody as healthy as possible, is striking that balance for everyone. So we can continue to talk about it, and I'm in favor of whatever you're in favor of at this point.
Thank you. And we'll continue the discussion
Yes.
later.
Okay, I'd like to thank the teachers
thank
again.
you very much for the teachers joining our meeting and taking the time. Much appreciated.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, John.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, John, we can.
Okay, good. Before we go, can you walk me through what the hybrid schedule looks like again, just to make sure that my understanding of that is correct? So my understanding is that half of the students are there on Monday and Thursday, and the other half are there on Tuesday and Friday. Is that correct? And that there's still remote learners through this process. And then Wednesday is entirely remote.
Correct. So when
Is
we're
that correct?
Yes, when we're in the hybrid model, the true model that we developed, you are correct, John.
Okay. And on the Wednesdays, that full remote day is a half a day?
Yes, it is. However, it's a half
Why?
day, but students are, staff must be working in the building unless they have accommodations that we can approve through either a CBA or because of a state law or federal law or such for other purposes. But otherwise, 99.9% of our staff is working in the buildings on Wednesdays after students are dismissed, either virtually and then in the future in person. So I
Okay.
think you said why. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
And this extra half a day, the faculty would be required to remain in school working during the Wednesday afternoon period.
Yes.
Okay. And how many hours are we talking about giving up a week?
So we would still be providing lunch. We absolutely have to, and we should. So dismissal is at 12:10 at the elementary levels. So for a half day. So we're talking about close to 3 hours and 10 or 15 minutes, give or take, by the time the kids are getting ready and out the door. About 3 hours, a little over 3 hours.
Okay. Thank you. I am less enthusiastic about this than my colleagues.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, so moving on. Item C, Transition Academy for eligible students, reference B.
Okay, this is very exciting, this opportunity, and I have we asked for Miss O'Leary to be here in person tonight. As you know, we are responsible, and as we should be, we're responsible for our students from transitioning to life, really, after they're 18. Between 18 and 21 years old, our students with special needs. And we have this opportunity to work with Berlin Public Schools, and it's a very exciting opportunity. And Miss O'Leary, myself, we met with the Director of Special Services and the Superintendent, Brian Benigni, to talk about what this could look like if we were in a collaboration with Berlin Public Schools and what we can offer our students. So, Miss O'Leary.
Hi, everyone. And I also have Vicky on the line. I think she just unmuted herself. She's the wonderful, amazing teacher right now at the Berlin Transition Academy. So, Vicky, if you're there, can you introduce yourself?
Vicky, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
This is Vicki Muggleton, special ed teacher from Berlin.
All right. Thank you. So I do have Vicky on the line if anyone does have any questions for her after the presentation, but I have her here as support because she has been a part of the Berlin Transition Academy as it opened. So like Dr. Macri said, you could switch to the next slide. We do have this opportunity to partner, collaborate, work very closely with Berlin Public Schools that already has a Transition Academy program, which is very nice because inventing something from scratch is always difficult, and collaborating with colleagues and already existing programs is so much more beneficial, I feel, as a director and for our students. So we have a couple students that already attend the Berlin Transition Academy, and I already also sent other students out into other academies. But in working with their program this past year, and Vicki and Linda, the director, I feel that their program is really beneficial to our students, and it is something that we want to jump on board with and join with them and have our own program. So I'll just go through the slides. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So the budget, obviously, when creating a new program, we always think about budget. And why would we be doing this? Because it actually will benefit us in the end in terms of, the monetary expenses of it. So we have students, right now I have students out in transition programs that I pay tuition for. So approximately $55,000 per student per year, okay, is for tuition. So next year I have 7 students I anticipate attending a transition program because they're eligible through their IEPs. So that's roughly $385,000. If I join on with Berlin, which we plan on doing, I think it's a great opportunity. We will not have to pay a tuition per se. We will have expenses. We'll have expenses for the space, which is at currently the Berlin YMCA. We will have teacher and job coach salaries, and we'll pay for transportation to and from community outings, and that's pretty much what the expenses look like if we had this program. It would be approximately $200,000, which, as you can see, is much less than paying a tuition of $55,000 per student per year. And this is the split cost that Berlin would also be in charge of paying. So that alone, to me speaks volumes. We would have our own program. We would save about $185,000 depending. I anticipate having 7 students, and that can vary because based on IEPs and students that move in and out of district and student needs, that could be more. That it could be obviously less, but in short, we would in the long run save money, and the ultimate goal would be to eventually build up this program with Berlin, and we could tuition students into our program, and we could actually benefit and make money from other students coming into our program. So that's pretty much the budget in summary. So I'll go to the next slide and just explain a little bit more of why we want to do this. We can own the program, and we can tailor it to meet the students' needs. When I tuition students out into other programs, they're not our programs. I don't really... Yes, I have a say because they're our students, but I don't really have a huge say in the program. The programs are the programs, right? And we have a certain amount of tuition that we pay for these students, but we also don't have the opportunity to hire and train our staff in those programs because it's not ours. So in working with Berlin, we'd have the opportunity to hire and train our own staff, which is just wonderful because, again, we would have ownership in that and really be able to work with them. And currently, Berlin does participate and partner with local businesses. These are just a few of them: Kohl's, Modern Plumbing, Fosdick, Arbor Rose and the Jerome Home, For Your Paws, the Cafeteria at DOT, Eversource, the Berlin Library, Shaler Auto Body, Connecticut Beverage Mart, and CVS. And again, these are the opportunities that the students get to go out and have their jobs and vocational experience. And again, we can expand this with it being our own program and look to where it best meets the students' needs and interests. So, and again, currently Berlin does partner with the Webster Bank to also help teach banking skills for their students. I'll do the next slide, thanks. These are just the program contents, so I'm not going to go into depth, but this is the curriculum that is currently used. We use a curriculum through the CEC, Council for Exceptional Children, that focuses on living skills, interpersonal skills, employment, and then as well as the program it's a curriculum at Oak Hill about positive choices. It's basically healthy relationships and really teaching students how to be successful citizens, in the world after they graduate. And just some more information about the program, community experiences currently, and this is something that we plan on continuing with. These community experiences with other transition academies, other towns. This typically happens on Fridays. The students go out and they have outings. They go to the mall. This is without COVID. Pretend COVID doesn't exist. They have picnics. They go bowling. They go to Lyman Orchard with other towns on Fridays, and they get to have those experiences and build friendships, which is wonderful. So I'll go to the next slide. And just a couple other aspects to the program. Students are supported through leading their PBT IEP meetings, contacting their resources that they need for when they do graduate from the program, such as BRS and DDS services. We create individual transition portfolios for our students. They learn how to build resumes. They learn interview skills and really prepare them for life after school. They learn how to use public transportation, and they are supported in getting their driver's license and any other IDs that they do need, and learning how to access their insurance. And lastly, which is a really great aspect of this program, and Vicki, who's on the line, has done such a great job. A lot of the students, once they're done upon graduation, do have jobs at 21, or now, I forgot to mention, it's 22. So at 22, that we would be schooling students until, based on the new guidance, many of them have jobs lined up, that's what we want. You know, we want our students to be prepared, and we want to feel comfortable letting them fly. So these are just some wonderful aspects to the program. So I think, is there any? Oh, that's it. Thanks. So I know I went through it kind of quickly, but again, this is something that I'm very excited about. It's kind of been in discussion, you know, for the past couple years, and I had the opportunity to send a few students to the program this past year with Vicki, and it's just been so successful. Berlin is another a little bit bigger than us, but smaller community, not too far away, that we can join with. We can build relationships, friendships, you know, colleagues amongst ourselves, and I think really build this program and let it grow to benefit and meet the needs of our students. So I thank you for hearing me out.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Dipti, then Jen.
Question. It's an awesome idea, and it'd be nice if Cromwell businesses, you know, like Lowe's, get on board. And this is the program you have the vans for, right?
No. So the vans are for the program, the high school students, before they would be recommended for a transition program. Those vans, we actually do have partnerships with the community for our high school students, for students to go out to the vocational settings. But this is beyond, you know, beyond high school. Yeah.
Dipti, this is like our what we had. So as being part of really positive experience of doing this in a prior district that I'm sure Dipti can speak to, having your own program and being able to have it, because we're two smaller districts, in my past experience, tremendous benefit to our students, our community, but the experience that we can provide, because we really have more control over what we're offering and in their PPTs and their IEPs, everything. So it's just a win-win situation, and to see past students working in the public, in all different places in the workforce, it's just phenomenal. And I really believe I saw a big difference in when moving to that program, this type of a program in my past experience. So I loved this idea. I think we're going to have a great partnership, and I would really love to do it. But Dipti,
I think it's
first-hand
a great
experience.
idea. I've had a couple kids go through that transition program that I can think of, and also once you leave high school, you know, you lose your peer group. So to get a peer group to maintain friendships that go into your 20s and beyond I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
Jen.
So I think it sounds great as well. My question, I guess, was around the financials a little bit. So how many students I know we have about 7 going next year. How many students does Berlin have going? And then are we paying half the cost? Is it totally split equally?
Yeah.
Okay.
The plan right now would be to split the cost. I think Berlin, Vicki, don't speak, I don't want to speak for you, but Vicki, I think you might have 11 next year.
Vicki, can you hear Siri?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay. I think we're up to about 14 students next year.
Okay.
From Berlin.
From Berlin. Got it. Okay. So 14 plus our 7. Okay. Maybe I thought 11 this year. Okay. So yeah. And that is a good question. I've talked about that, you know, with Linda, who is the director there. Do we split the cost? Do we not? Do we split it amongst how many students per district. I don't know. I'm very much a collaborator, and I feel like if it's going to be both of our programs, and I mean, in the end, I'm saving a whole lot of money without paying a tuition, $55,000 or more. But it is a good question, because you could go back and forth and say, do I just pay for the amount of students I have, or do we split it? I know it's,
Well,
yeah.
we're making a commitment.
Yeah.
The commitment is to be partners, and in 2 years, it could be that we have 14 students and Berlin has, 11. The partnership is that we share all of the services. So, and yet we both, it's a win-win situation. So the services are there. We may have less students, but we may have students who need more services. So it doesn't always matter about the amount of students, it's the quality of the program, and it is, like I said, a win-win situation, and it could be the opposite in the future because of depending on which one of our students need this opportunity.
Thanks.
So is there a discussion to be had on the cost, or is it just going to be a 50-50 split? Because what if one year we have one student, or and it could flip-flop. I mean, I'm just
right.
It's not fair to either town.
Yeah, and I work so closely with Berlin already. I wouldn't hesitate to say that there will always be a discussion. If there is a year that we have one, I'm sure that would be a discussion. But I don't anticipate ever being a year if there's one, actually, because I know our students coming up the pike, and we do have students with many needs. But I think the discussion should always be on the table if we need it. But I agree with you, Dr. Macri. It's a collaboration, and it's it's more than just obviously the cost. It would be our program, and you're right. There are some students that may go and only need 2 days of services through that program, or maybe they do need the 5 days. And to really break that down would be difficult. I think just to say, this is our program, this is what we have. We have, our teacher salaries, our, job coach salaries, and we pay for this for transportation, and just, that's just what it is. That to me is better than kind of nitpicking all the little intricacies of it, because I wanted to move away from a tuition-based program. It really just to be, ours, or, both of ours, Berlin and ours, so.
And I am confident that that discussion would continue to happen with Berlin. We all understand the superintendent. I do know Brian, Superintendent Benigni, well. I know you'll all be surprised. We went to high school together too. And there is no communication barrier between myself and him and the director and Siri. And if that ever happened, and vice versa, what is this going to look like as far as payment? We can open it up and say we really like to talk about this. I don't worry about that much, too much at all.
Thank you. Oh, Dipti. Sure.
Is this open for any student with an IEP that's 18, or is there certain criteria?
I got you, John.
Yeah, there are certain criteria. Obviously, everything is a PPT decision. If they really, for those students, are most needy, but lower functioning students that we are not ready to graduate, to go out into the workplace, or are not college eligible or ready for college. Some students may need just 1 extra year. Some may need until they're 21 or 22. But it is definitely a PPT decision. It's not for all students with IEPs. Just for those that are recommended for it and that are eligible.
John Flanders, did you have a question?
First a comment, which is that I got a chill running down my spine when I heard it said that we were in a program that limited the options for students with individual education programs. We should never say that. We should certainly never say that out loud.
I didn't say that.
But
I never said that.
But I think that this program is getting away from that, so I'm pleased with that. The one thing I don't notice in your presentation is details on supporting students who are in fact participating in post-secondary education, and I trust that that's going to happen.
So, can you be a little bit more specific? And just to touch, I just wanted to reiterate, I don't believe I ever said limited. I just want you to know, John, this is actually, this is going to be, for us, we can provide more flexibility in meeting our students' needs. But just so you know, we've never limited any, our students right now are not. But this is definitely, a better option for us.
I was supportive of the fact that it had greater flexibility.
Great.
I was concerned that we had been in a program that had inadequate flexibility, and I would encourage you to leave such a program. My question is that there are some students who do participate in post-secondary education while still on an IEP, and the program doesn't talk about supports for a student who might be taking courses at Manchester or at Middlesex Community College or something like that as part of his or her IEP program.
So we obviously have students, and we love when we see students that are able to go out and have half a vocational program like this, and then are also taking courses, at Middlesex. So we work closely with students to do that and to help them locate and access resources that they need once they are enrolled in a course at a college. And I actually, that part of the program, really, we have a transition consultant in our district, and she helps students, and I think I spoke about her last year at our meeting. She helps students go out to colleges and find the right program for them and find them the academic resources that they need, the academic help centers and learning resource centers, whatever they're called. So that is really just dependent on the students and what they need. This program right now is really strictly a vocationally based, life skills, functional based program, but I do have students actually right now that are doing a little bit of both. And I have my transition consultant actually from Cromwell help students and assist with finding those resources and supports. So I don't know if Vicki, you had anything else. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely add. Currently, we are supporting about to be 2 students who are taking classes at Tungus Community College, and we define with the student and the parent really how much support in terms of what areas we help them access the disability center on campus, and then they are able to really, depending on their need, take classes at the BTA if they don't have a quiet workplace at home. We are also able to support chunking assignments, anything like that they would need in their IEP.
Thank you, Vicki.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, great.
All right. So I'll keep you posted and give you updates, and hoping that we're able to move forward with this next year. We're possibly looking to also change the name from BTA or Berlin Transition Academy to something more collaborative between the two towns. So I'll update you when I have more information.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I appreciate you taking the time and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Item D, action establishing a new club activity, French National Honor Society.
Ms. DiFiore, would you like to speak to that? Reference C. Ms. DiFiore, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you speak to establishing a new club activity, French National Honor Society?
Sure. As you know, we about will be 2 years now, we established a Spanish National Honor Society, and that's been very active and working really well. And so I was approached by some students, and Ms. Hilbrand, who was our French teacher, had asked if we could also establish a French Honor Society for those students who are excelling in the language of French. And so I felt it was a great idea.
Great. Thank you very much. Oh.
Sorry.
Are there any questions?
Sorry, John, say that again.
Element and mu.
Oh, I don't speak French, so.
So move in French.
Motion from
so
John.
Move.
Is there a second? Second from Catherine. Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
We.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. Okay, new business E, informational principal reports are attached to the back of your packet. Any questions to those? Okay, hearing none. Board committee reports, policy, none. Facilities, none. Topics for future agendas. I do not believe we have anything to add from today's meeting. Comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. We'll start with the administrators. Hearing none, we'll start with the board members on the phone. Mr. Flanders? None?
Yeah, a quick comment.
Go ahead, John.
Earlier today, I received a resolution to be considered by the town council at their meeting tomorrow concerning juvenile justice. And it certainly gives the flavor of the need to increase criminal punishment for students who commit crimes, which seems quite honestly in contravention of what we're doing in terms of social and emotional health and development. So I would encourage my colleagues to take a look at that resolution and possibly comment on it at tomorrow's town council meeting.
Thank you, John. Lindsay?
Nothing.
Thank you. Selena?
No comments.
Lori? Dr. Macri?
I'm sorry, I have to do this because I just realized an error. We do have 2 letters of correspondence. This goes back to the beginning of the agenda from our EAC that you did receive. Just talking about how the decision was made to return and what models, and their disappointment about, being worried. And I truly feel that what they're saying is they're nervous and they're afraid for their own health and well-being and for that of their students. So I'm sorry, there were 2 correspondences, and I said there were none, and there were. It feels like 100 years ago, so I apologize. I also just wanted to let you know that we received KERMA, you do know, and I'd like the community to know, the 2021 Excellence in Risk Management Award, and we received the award for establishing risk management as a priority. Every single municipality and school district in the state of Connecticut are up for this award. Usually someone within the district or the town nominates you, but in this situation, KERMA nominated us for the incredible work that we've done with risk management and lowering our cases and handling them and addressing them in an expedient manner and providing training. And a lot of that goes to Michelle DeMoro, our HR department. So when I received this call, and we will be receiving this award, and you may join us. It's virtual on January 29th. You were invited. I was shocked because we were the district that was selected without even applying. And this is wonderful news. And our claims have gone down, and Ms. DeMoro has spent a lot of time in educating, training, and providing us with how do we support our staff so that they are not at risk when they're at work. So we will receive a $2,500 check and a trophy, which is exciting. So you heard from Ms. Hicks about joining us on January 29th, and it would be great if you would join us. And just the two things, Cromwell Coalition gave us over 55 gift cards to help families in need to either Walmart, Stop and Shop, and ShopRite. And we had a very confidential way of identifying families, inviting them to central office to pick up gift cards or delivering them. And then we also had toys that were available through Cromwell Coalition for Children that families can then take when they left. And it was very uplifting for our for central office staff to see how our families are impacted every day, and our families who really need our support. So and our families were incredibly thankful, and the stories of how their lives have changed over the last year have been were amazing to hear. And then lastly, you heard the high school speak about raising $5,110 for Pajama Day, and Lillian Sturmer, she was the student who was in charge of this with student council, and we were one of the top performers. And how do you like that during COVID when they were afraid that, the day would be canceled? We had 2 days of wear your pajamas to school and work. So I thank Lillian, and I commend her on her hard work, and to all of our community for being so supportive of this event.
Great, thank you.
That's it.
Jen? Dipty? Catherine? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Matrullo, I know I'm sorry, and I never stop talking, but I do want to mention one more thing. I have notes everywhere. Sure. I was not here, and I did not get to work in his presence. Coach Jake Salafia, as he was known in Cromwell, and I never met him, but I have heard so many stories about him from people in Cromwell, from people just last night when I was talking to someone that I'd never spoken to before that had worked with him. He worked in Cromwell High School as the athletic director from 1967 to 1992. And he was a huge impact on students' lives, adults' lives. He's touched so many people over the years. Like I said, I never had the opportunity to meet him, but he sounded like a 1 in a million person. So he did pass last week, and our condolences go out to his family and friends. And I just wanted to share that news with all of you, and also let his family know that he sounds like an amazing man, and he made an incredible impact on a lot of kids and adults in the community.
Amen. Thank you for the reminder.
Sure.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? From Catherine, second. From Dipty, comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Aye.
The motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:18 p.m. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Yeah.